All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Pirates podcast to be named later. We are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, and I am here with my favorite Pittsburgh Pirates beat writer, as always, the one and only, the magnanimous Alex J. Stumpf. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you once again for announcing that this is going live, so I'm not blindsided at the 45-minute
I
mark.
just figured I'd add it in every morning or every episode now, just in case you're not paying attention, so we don't have no surprises. We don't need any on-air apologies.
No.
We've had enough of those in the baseball world.
Yeah, that was quite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't diving into that one.
Neither am I. I've already had one audio scandal under my belt. I don't need a second.
That's a throwback.
Alex, we had a conversation about how sustainable the Pirates winning was last week, and it turns out not as sustainable as I thought. Now, I'm not going to back off of that. I still think it is sustainable for a long season, but they're hitting a little bit of a rough patch. 5-game losing streak. In the last 4 games, they've been outscored 19-4. What do you see going on? What do you see happening with this team right now? I know they're having a hard time hitting the ball. The pitching has definitely taken a step backwards. Despite, got to throw it as a little sidebar, shout out to Colin Holderman on the immaculate inning, 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts. That's awesome. I don't care you win or lose. That's a really cool personal achievement. Shout out to Colin for that one. But what are you seeing with the baseball team right now? What is there, is it intangible? Is it tangible? Fielding hasn't been great. I mean, just all around, it just hasn't been good baseball over the last week or so.
No, and it's really been mistakes they have made.
Yeah.
A lot of this has been unforced errors, like not catching a pop-up in the trop. Castro boots a ball that leads to a 3-run inning for Mitch Keller. Miguel Andujar stops running after a fly ball, and it drops in for a double, and that results in a couple more runs. Even on Friday, G1 Bay going for third base, trying to steal that with nobody out. You don't make the first or third out at third base, and you're not going to be able to catch Matt Chapman sleeping. So it's one of those, there were a lot of mental mistakes. I don't know if they're forcing stuff right now, if they tried to overshoot the Rays series, but that was a pretty frustrating series because they should have won 2 of those games. I'll just say it. They should have won.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
Yeah, and it could have been any of the 2. If they field competently, Mitch Keller is matching Shane McClanahan, who probably is the best pitcher in the American League, pitch for pitch for 6-7 innings.
Mm-hmm.
The game 1, we're talking about a ball call, but there are a couple times 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. If they just get a couple hits there, they probably win that game. They come really close in the finale, even with, again, a couple mental mistakes in there and, umpiring, but they probably should have won 2. And whenever you get swept, it hits a point where it's like, this is the first real skid for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And this team has been challenged a couple times already this year. They got challenged whenever they lost O'Neal Cruz. They got challenged whatever they started the year a little bit of a rocky foot. I mean, they got challenged coming in that, they have a 100-loss season in their rearview mirror. Like, that still hangs on a little bit. They don't have really that much, they face so much adversity already, and this is the first time it's really been in the form of losses. And we've seen last year, the last couple years, this would turn into 8-9 game losing streaks, and they're halfway there right now. Can they stop that? How quickly can they turn the corner?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not soon, this is the type of thing that could really negate that really good start.
Yeah, and then you talk about adversity. Another thing that just they have to deal with now is Vince Velasquez is going to be 15-day DL with elbow inflammation, correct, or soreness.
That's
a very good arm.
Weeks, yeah. I mean, let's start off with that. Vince has been absolutely what the Pirates hoped he could be.
Yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, for the first month of the season, he was Reclamation Project 3.0. He was Tyler Anderson. He was Jose Quintana. He was doing exactly what they were doing, had a great month. And now we got to see how much time's going to be missed here. Because if this is a matter of a couple weeks, they could weather this storm without having to go too far. They only need a fifth starter one day between now and like the 24th because, there's just that many off days built into the schedule.
Right.
You could work around that. But after that, they don't have a whole lot to go to other than Luis Ortiz, who I can't imagine is really on the table until the end of the month, really, because then he gets they lose a year of control if he's up before the end of the month.
If we remove that for a second, not to interrupt you, but if we remove that for a second, is he ready? Do you think that he's ready for the majors?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could continue to develop in AAA, but I think he's in a situation that if they said, Luis, you got to come up to the major leagues, he'd be ready. I mean, we saw him last year.
Yeah.
He had a clunker in there, but for the most part, he showed that he was fearless. He could attack hitters. He did the things that you would want to see from a young pitcher making their major league debut. There's obviously more development there. I think that development can continue in AAA. Maybe in some cases it should continue in AAA, but they're in a situation that they don't have a whole lot to go to right now. They could go to Luis Ortiz. Quinn Priester had a really good start his last time out. It was really bad most of the year before that. I mean, it's a month. It's a month. I get it. But it's still one of those, you can't call up the guy whenever he has a 7 ERA.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, and then after that, what do you have depth-wise? We're going to Osvaldo Bido and Caleb Smith at this point. Like losing Mike Burrows, losing JT Brubaker. There's not a whole lot of depth here. I kind of look at someone like Rich Hill, not to slight him or anything. He's only pitched 140 innings twice in his major league career. He's not going to give you 30-something starts. There's got to be something that goes along there. So
it comes back to the adversity thing.
And that's another challenge that this team's going to be facing. And that's why it's even more important, in my opinion, to try to stop this sooner rather than later so you can convince this team at the trade deadline, we're still in it. Go get us a starting pitcher.
What's exciting for me about this, though, Alex, is exactly what you just said. Stop it. It's time to stop it. Which one of these pitchers is going to step up and throw that, 6 or 7 inning game where, not that they would look unhittable, but, a really solid quality start from one of these starting pitchers. I want to see which one of these guys is going to be. I want to see which one of these guys steps up and makes it happen and stops the skid. Someone has to do it, right? I mean, like you said, it has to happen. We can't see one of these 8 or 9 game losing streaks like we did last year. Not to repeat you, but yeah, you're right. It has to happen.
I would say it's already happened. It was Mitch Keller and his defense just betrayed him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair for sure. But no, I do still think that this is sustainable. I think that you have a situation where there's a lot of young guys on this baseball team, and those mistakes are going to happen. It wasn't going to go 162 games this season without having, a lapse like this. I don't think it's anything to hit a panic button yet, but we are seeing a young baseball team be a young baseball team. And now it's time for Rich Hill and Andrew McCutchen and Johan Santana and some of these older guys on the baseball team.
Johan Santana.
Did I really just say Johan Santana?
You're bringing back, dude.
Man.
I love.
Oh, Johan. He was one of my favorite pitchers as a kid. Or as a teenager, no doubt. But I definitely just called him Johan Santana, not Carlos Santana, which. Carlos Santana, because I'm a guitarist, is embedded in my brain, so I don't know how I messed that. You could tell that it's been a long week, man. That's where it's been a long week. But point being, the veterans on the baseball team have to step up. They've got to do their thing. They've got to make it, make these young guys comfortable again. The thing about when they were hot is how much fun they were having, right? We talked about that. It was a fun baseball team. It was a fun atmosphere. Going to the ballpark on a Wednesday night was exciting. the veteran's going to figure out a way to bring that back. And look, it's Andrew McCutchen. He's going to figure that out. If there's one thing Andrew McCutchen does really well is make the clubhouse a fun place to be. So I'm not hitting a panic button yet. I'm not super, super worried about things yet. I think that this is just one of those lapses in a season where things don't go your way, bounces don't completely go your way. Tropicana is a really hard baseball stadium to play in if you're not used to it, and they're an NL team going there for the first time in a while. So I pump the brakes on the fire and brimstone, and we'll wait and see what happens.
I'm gonna close this one by after that'd be Wednesday, I guess. Wednesday night, whenever they lost Game 2 to the Rays, I talked to Carlos Santana, and I put in my lead. Like, Carlos Santana was very much presenting himself like, if anyone wants to talk to a clubhouse vet, I'm here to talk. And I did. I'm like, do you think this is a point of the season where maybe you have to say something after a couple losses like this? He's like, no, not yet. Wonder where that line is, though. Like, I don't blame him. Who am I to say this is whenever Carlos Santana has to say something like this? But
yeah,
I'm just interested to see if there is a line, and if Carlos says something sooner rather than later.
I really like him a lot. He has grown on me so much this year, dude.
He is. I think people. I mean, it's Pittsburgh. Of course, they're going to look at Kutch and like what he's done for that clubhouse, and what he needs, and he does. I don't want it to take away from what Carlos Santana does for this clubhouse too, because he does everything Kutch does, and maybe even more. Like, he is absolutely the type of guy this clubhouse.
He's a glue guy. Man. It's a stereotype and it's a cliche, but they're cliches for a reason, because you need a guy like him to be on a baseball team, on a sports team to win. Let's take a quick break, and then I want to get your thoughts on another part of baseball that we have seen rear its ugly head this week. All right, we're back for the second segment of the Pirates podcast to be named later. I'm Eddie Provident. This is Alex Stumpf. Alex, you were in Florida for the Rays series. I'm not a fan of major league umpires just in general. I'm going to throw it out there. I know that, just so everyone knows, my opinion is a biased opinion. What the hell happened? What was going on?
That was a rough series. And I mean, it started with the balk call, which was something. Let's just say it was something. It was either a balk because he didn't get set, or the pitch clock had expired and it's a ball. And I believe it was a balk, but I get the pitch clock violation if it would have been that. And even that would have been like, okay, there was a transgression here, and it wasn't nothing. Let's just say like that. It wasn't nothing. The Pirates should have been given a little something because he took too long, and it cost him a run and pretty much the momentum in the game right there. Because if that run comes in, it's a 1-run game, and the tying run is 90 feet away. Completely different ball game. Pitch clock, goes on the fritz in game 2. Shelton eventually gets tossed. I said it in the 24/7. I wonder if that was a little bit of him, making up for not getting tossed on in game 1. And then all those called strikes. It had been 14 years, Eddie, since the last time the Pirates had been struck out 5 times on pitches that were outside of the strike zone.
14 years. Wow, that's a stat right there, man.
Yeah. So
Alex going into the bag of tricks, ladies and gentlemen.
It was either a hell of a coincidence or targeting. It can't be any of the two, and nobody flat out said targeting or payback or anything, because they don't want to get fined. But it was.
But even moving away from the Pirates, you have the starting pitcher from the Rays talking about how he had to take his wedding ring off. A right-handed pitcher has to take a rubber ring off in order to play a baseball game.
For you fellow singles out here, for you non-married types, the wedding ring goes on the left hand.
Yes, I would wave my hand, but I'm sitting at home and I took my wedding ring off, so I don't.
And this is also a podcast.
Yeah, so some people are going to see that, most people won't. But yeah, I don't get, like, I saw somebody on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but basically was like, hey, if you came to Tampa to see the umps, you got your money's worth this series, and it shouldn't be that way, man. Like, I'm not going to get into the whole hockey thing, but like hockey officiating, the NHL officiating is frustrating because they get in the way constantly by trying to not be in the way. And MLB umpires are more frustrating because they get in the way by wanting to be in the way. It's almost like they want to be the star of the show. The crew chief, after Shelton got tossed, doing the "I'm watching you" thing to the Pirates bullpen. I mean, that's BS, man. What is going on when the umpires think that they have this godlike stature on the baseball field? They're umpires. Call balls and strikes, call safe or out, do your job, and be done with it. No one's there to see you.
Well, I'm going to be diplomatic here and say that Adrian Johnson's umpire crew should not be around the Pirates for a while. If Major League Baseball can keep that schedule going, they should keep that in mind, because that was a whole series building up to everything. And Shelton had talks with the league over the pitch clock stuff.
Okay.
So that was brought to their attention. Also. So there was a lot of conversations. There was a lot of talks. I'm gonna just ask the $1 million question, Eddie.
Oh, you're gonna ask it? Okay.
I'm gonna ask you the $1 million question. Robo umps, yay or nay, for balls and strikes. We're still gonna have some of these. We're still gonna have some of the balk, the pitch clock, whatever. But balls and strikes.
I can't say yay loudly and more emphatically enough. I'm tired of this, man. There is very few instances in professional sports where something as important as a ball or a strike, that call, is left to human error or like human judgment, right? In most cases, it's a black and white thing where, okay, imagine the NFL not going to replay anymore if the ball is, if it's close to a first down. When it's something that can easily be seen by a camera, could easily be seen and figured out. Imagine them just saying, we think it's a first down.
No.
It can't, and at the end of the day, an umpire calling a ball or a strike is, hey, I think this is a strike. I think this is a ball. Now they train for it. They're much better than I ever will be. I'm not trying to say that, but at the end of the day, it's their judgment. It's a judgment call that they get wrong sometimes, and sometimes they get it wrong in crucial situations. Robo umps, I don't think will ever be perfect. I don't think there's ever a perfect system, but they are going to be much more unbiased and much more accurate than human umpires. And so I think that makes the game better.
I'm too much of a fan of pitch framing and like finding these areas like this to go full let's go robo umps with this. So I'm still on the anti side with this. I'm going to take Andrew McCutcheon's side on this, though. Whenever he asks, where's the accountability? Why, whenever you have all these players saying you're missing the strike zone, why aren't you making an adjustment to actually get in the strike zone? Why is it up to the batter to adjust to the umpire rather than the umpire adjusting to what the strike zone should be? I think there should be a way to go about that, whether it's a way for them to review their scores mid-game of what they're calling, and they'd be like, well, I'm really calling that high pitch. I messed it up something here. Whatever the case may be, there has to be some way that there can be that mid-game adjustment. There could be that review. I find a way to do that, and I'm also going to say that I said this a while ago. They have to find a way to get some of these like Angel Hernandez type umpires out of major league games as much as possible. You can't fire them because of the union, but I don't see why they can't. It's a 5-man umpire crew now on for each game. One person does replay, and Angel Hernandez, you're on replay. You're just not going to be calling balls and strikes anymore.
So why? I guess
unless you display a certain amount of competency,
right?
You don't do it.
Well, what if they did something like what the NFL and NHL and even NBA does it now, where you have basically that extra ref, so they would have the extra ump in a replay booth that's on a communication system, and if it's an egregious one, if it's clearly it's a ball and they called it a strike or vice versa, or if it's clearly, hey, he was out at second base and you really missed that badly, someone that could just step in through a communication system and say, hey, we got that wrong. Let's just change it right then and there. It would take 2 or 3 seconds. You get it right in the moment.
I don't even need the change for balls and strikes. I just want it in their head of like, if you are constantly missing, like Gonzalez was on Thursday. Do you know how bad it is whenever I learn the umpires' names?
Yeah.
Like umpiring is a thankless job. I get that, and it's really just the bad ones whose name you remember. But it's
one of those things that
there has to be a way to make an adjustment. There has to be some form of accountability outside with what Kutch said on that. If you didn't read it,
it's one of those things that even if you've played Little League, you don't even have to have played middle school or high school or college baseball, professional baseball. If you've played Little League and you've been in the batter's box and there's inconsistent calls, it's frustrating. It's just a frustrating thing. I mean, how many? I am very much a proponent that you never, ever, ever yell at volunteers that are working with youth athletes. So I leave the youth umpires alone. But how many times do they get yelled at because people think that they're not doing their job right or because they missed a call or anything? Like, I'm saying that because being an umpire in baseball is a very difficult thing. It's not an easy job. Calling balls and strikes isn't easy. So I'm not saying this as a way to like crush these guys or like say, well, these guys are terrible or they're trying to do this. It's a hard job. Give them the tools that we have with technology now. Like you're saying, even if you want to go a smaller side like you, give them a way to be better and to have that backup to know that, hey, I've got a better chance of getting this right. I don't see why that's such a taboo topic in baseball, to use technology to make someone's life easier.
Robo-umps will one day come. It's the same way as like the pitch clock, the universal DH. It's going to happen eventually. And that's that. We're going to take a break here since Eddie's mic is absolutely horrible. We'll be right back here in a minute. This is going to make great content on YouTube.
And we're back now that I've left you alone to suffer on a live stream.
Thanks for that. Yeah, we're never live streaming again. This is the last one.
Whenever that cuts out like that, the only way to fix it is to hit the refresh button and then hop back into the studio. So I'm sorry. StreamYard does not like my setup, apparently. What do you got for the third segment? Normally, I'm the one that puts you on the spot with the third segment, but since I just put you on the spot, I'll give you a chance to throw me under the bus.
Johan Santana. Hall of Famer or no? Yes, no. Real fast.
Yes. 100% yes.
Good call.
Yes.
Baseball writers got that wrong. If they wouldn't have screwed up that Bartolo Colon Cy Young, he would have had 3 in a row, and I would have just gone postal if he didn't make it to that. He should have been in.
Growing up, my 3 favorite pitchers were Jason Schmidt because he started with the Pirates, Barry Zito because of the curveball, and that's I had the 12-6, obviously not like that, but I had the 12-6 curveball. That's what I tried to model my game after was Barry Zito, and then Johan Santana because just of how dominant he was for that stretch, and it was in the formative years of my baseball fandom. The Pirates weren't very good at the time, so I needed something to root for and someone to root for. So it was Johan Santana, and I just loved watching him take the hill, man. And he's a Hall of Famer in my book, no doubt.
Yeah, best pitcher I've ever seen with the Twins since I wasn't alive for Walter Johnson.
Yeah. The close second for the Twins for me personally, Francisco Liriano.
Different level.
Oh, no doubt. I'm just saying, like, it was that, like, Johan Santana was there, then as he kind of faded, Liriano stepped up for them for a few years, and then
and then was shaky. I don't know. I'd probably go more like Radke or Carlos Silva or someone else. How big of a degenerate can I come with the number 2 starters of the Minnesota Twins?
You're gonna beat me 10 times out of 10 on that, man. Well, it was fun up until the microphone cut out, and then I left you hanging.
Yeah. The microphone goes again. Eddie is going into timeout, so we're done. Maybe Eddie's back next week. Maybe we can hear him next week. We're going to find out. But thank you all so much for watching and listening whenever there was something to listen to this week. Be sure to subscribe to the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcasting Network. Wherever you find podcasts, we'll be there as well. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again next week.